It's 11 p.m. You've been staring at your phone for hours, not really watching, not really thinking, just stuck. You're not in a crisis. You're not in pain, but you're not really here either. You scroll. You sigh. You wonder, what happened to me? Because you used to be ambitious, creative, driven, alive. Now, you're just surviving, not falling apart, but not moving forward either. Like being trapped between who you were and who you're supposed to become, and somehow belonging to neither. This is the invisible weight we rarely talk about, that quiet, haunting feeling. I should be doing more. I know I'm capable of something greater. So why can't I move? You tell yourself it's burnout, laziness, lack of motivation, but what if it's something deeper? What if the reason you're stuck has nothing to do with your productivity and everything to do with your truth? Because here's the paradox. You can have clarity and still feel frozen. You can know what you want and still not take a step. You can have potential pulsing in your chest and still feel paralyzed by some force you can't name. And that feeling? It isn't weakness. It's not a flaw in your work ethic. It's something more sacred, more revealing, more human. Think of it like this. You're in a room. There's a door in front of you. You know it leads somewhere better, but something inside you won't let you open it. You don't know why. You just feel blocked. So you sit, and you wait, and you begin to believe the room is your home. But it never was. Feeling stuck is not failure. It's a signal that you've reached the limit of the life you've been living, that something within you wants to change, but can't find a safe path to emerge. It's the soul's version of buffering, and in this video, we're going to decode that signal. Because getting unstuck isn't about hustle. It's not about discipline, it's about alignment with who you are, with what you fear, with what part of you has gone unheard for too long. So here's the real question. What if the part of you that refuses to move? When we say I feel stuck, we usually think it means I'm not trying hard enough. But what if that's not true? What if being stuck doesn't mean you're broken, but that something inside you is trying to protect you? Let's redefine the entire idea. Feeling stuck isn't laziness. It isn't a character flaw. It isn't a lack of discipline. It's a message from your nervous system, from your unconscious mind, from the parts of you that remember what you've forgotten. You don't get stuck randomly. You get stuck when your life no longer fits your truth. You're following a script that isn't yours. You're suppressing emotions you haven't been allowed to feel. You're afraid to lose what's familiar, even if it's slowly killing you. Stuckness is the body's protest against living a life that no longer reflects who you are. But here's the paradox. You can be stuck in a life that looks successful. You can be stuck in a relationship that looks stable. You can be stuck in a mindset that once helped you survive but now holds you prisoner. This is why stuckness feels so heavy, because part of you knows you've outgrown where you are, but another part hasn't figured out how to leave without falling apart. And until those parts speak to each other, you remain in limbo. Sometimes you're stuck because you're about to evolve. Sometimes you're stuck because the next version of you requires letting go of everything the old you built. That's not weakness, that's a spiritual growth spurt. And just like any transformation, there's pain in the in-between. So the question isn't, how do I push through this? It's, what am I refusing to feel? What part of me is trying to get my attention? What truth have I been postponing? Because often the door you can't open is being guarded by a fear you haven't made peace with yet. So no, you're not stuck because you're lazy. You're stuck because you're at the edge of your current self, and something more honest is trying to be born. You don't need more pressure, you need more permission. To stop pretending, to stop performing, to start asking, what do I actually want? To understand why we get stuck, we have to leave the world of productivity and enter the world of philosophy. Because being stuck is not just a personal failure, it's a human condition, and some of the greatest thinkers in history have already lived through it. Carl Jung. The self is divided. Jung believed that we each carry two lives, the life we live and the life we could have lived if we were whole. When we ignore the deeper self, the parts that are repressed, denied, feared, we become split. The Ego wants control, but the unconscious wants integration. So what happens? Stuckness. Not because you've failed, but because a hidden part of you is refusing to go along with the script. Jung would say, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Feeling stuck might mean the real you is trying to break through, but the ego calls that rebellion. Kierkegaard. Despair is not knowing. Yourself, Søren Kierkegaard, defined despair as the sickness of not being yourself. And here's the twist. You can be in despair without even realizing it. You live someone else's dream. You follow expectations instead of desire. You drown in distractions and call it normal life. He called this the despair of the inauthentic self, where you're alive but not truly living, where you smile, but something inside you aches, where you perform success, but your soul is quietly eroding. Kierkegaard's cure? Not achievement, not external validation, but truth. And truth requires the courage to sit in stillness and ask, am I living in alignment with who I really am? Simone de Beauvoir. The Trap of Roles. Simone de Beauvoir believed that freedom is terrifying, so most people trade it for comfort. They conform, they obey, they hide in identities, spouse, employee, influencer, caretaker. They play the role and forget it's a role. This, she said, is bad faith, and it leads to inner paralysis. Because even if you want to change, the role won't let you. You've built too much around it. You've invested too deeply in the illusion, so you stay stuck. Not because you can't move, but because moving would mean dismantling who you've been. And that is terrifying. Sartre, The Weight of Freedom. Jean-Paul Sartre said, we are condemned to be free, meaning there is no divine script, no predetermined path, no one coming to save you. You must choose, you must act, you must make meaning. And that freedom? It's both a gift and a curse, because choice means responsibility. And responsibility means you can't blame anyone else anymore. That's heavy. Sometimes too heavy. So we stay where we are, not because we're content, but because movement would mean confronting our power. The common thread, whether it's Jung's unconscious, Kierkegaard's despair, Beauvoir's role trap, or Sartre's burden of freedom, they all point to one thing. You are stuck when the life you're living no longer honors who you are becoming. So what now? How does this play out in real life? In your job, your relationships, your daily thoughts? Let's look at the modern stories we're living and how they shape our stuckness more than we realize. It's easy to think this feeling of being stuck is personal, something unique to you, a glitch in your mindset, but it's not. It's a collective condition playing out in bedrooms, boardrooms, therapy sessions, and timelines every single day. You are not alone in this. The overachiever who can't feel anything. They did everything right. Graduated top of their class, landed the job, built the brand hit, the 6 figures. But now, they feel empty, disconnected, quietly ashamed of how ungrateful that sounds, so they double down, work harder, push through. But the more they achieve, the more hollow it all feels. Why? Because you can build a perfect life on a foundation that was never yours to begin with. Success built on fear, approval, or identity armor will always collapse into stuckness. The performer who lost the script. Then there's the social chameleon. Funny, smart, reliable, always on. They're surrounded by people, but feel completely unknown, because every room requires a different version of them. And after years of adapting, they've forgotten who they were before they started performing. This is stuckness as identity, confusion. You're so many things to so many people that you've become nothing to yourself. The spiritual seeker who can't break through. They meditate, they journal, they read all the right books. And still, nothing moves. They've optimized the surface, but they haven't gone into the pain. And without facing the pain, No amount of presence can lead to liberation. This is stuckness disguised as growth, doing the rituals of healing without touching the raw nerve underneath. The person living someone else's dream, they went into law because their parents wanted security. They got married because that's what you do. They stayed because leaving felt selfish. But now in their 30s, 40s, 50s, they feel like a ghost in their own life, like they've been inhabiting a character that was never truly alive. This is stuckness as inherited identity. A life lived on someone else's values will always start to suffocate you, eventually. The role of culture in creating stuckness, and let's not forget the world we're living in, a world of overchoice, too many options, too little clarity, a world of comparison, curated success stories that make your stillness feel like failure, a world of performance, where authenticity is marketed, not lived, a world of speed, where slowing down feels like falling behind. In this world, stuckness isn't a glitch. It's a symptom of systemic misalignment. So we swing between burnout and apathy, between ambition and numbness, between I want more and I don't know what more even means anymore. We swing because we don't know how to sit with the stillness long enough to ask the deeper questions. What do I actually want? Who am I outside of this role? What would I do if I wasn't afraid to disappoint anyone? Stuckness isn't a dead end. It's a signal, but if we keep treating it like a personal failure, we'll keep missing the invitation. So what's actually happening inside your mind when you feel frozen? Why does your brain resist the very change you know you need? And what does it take to move again? From the inside out. You're not just stuck in your life, you're stuck in your mind. Not because your mind is broken, but because it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. Keep you safe, even if that means keeping you small. The freeze response: when you face a threat, your body has 3 core responses: fight, flight, freeze. But here's what most people miss. Freeze isn't always physical. You can freeze emotionally, mentally, spiritually. It happens when you're caught between a truth you can't avoid and a reality you're afraid to face. You want to change, but change might mean risk, conflict, rejection, exposure. So your system says, let's just stay here. It's safer. And suddenly, you're stuck. The mind is gatekeeper. Your brain is constantly making subconscious decisions about one thing. Is this safe? And the answer it gives is not based on facts, it's based on familiarity. That means staying in the wrong job? Safe. Staying in a lifeless relationship? Safe. Sabotaging new opportunities? Safe. Taking the leap you crave? Dangerous. Because it's unknown, and the unknown feels like a threat, even if it's the only path to growth. The false self dilemma. Remember the roles we talked about earlier? Your mind gets attached to them. I'm the strong one. I'm the responsible one. I'm the achiever. I'm the one who holds everything together. But what if those roles no longer serve you? What if the real you is softer, freer, more creative, more chaotic? The mind resists this shift, not because it hates you, but because it loves the structure that the false self provides, even if it's suffocating. The inner conflict. Nobody sees. There are always 2 parts inside you. The part that's tired of pretending. The part that's terrified of being real, and when these 2 are at war, you can't move, you make a little progress and then pull back. You get excited and then doubt creeps in. You speak your truth, then feel guilty for it. This is not dysfunction. This is the human condition. It's what happens when your evolution threatens your ego's control. The role of unspoken emotion often, what keeps us stuck isn't the circumstances. It's the emotion we haven't allowed ourselves to feel. The EQ, grief we've buried, the rage we've numbed, the fear we've spiritualized, the shame we've intellectualized, unfelt emotion, frozen energy. And until we face those feelings, we'll keep spinning in loops, thinking it's a mindset problem, when really, it's an emotional backlog. The cost of self-protection: yes, your mind is protecting you, but protection has a price. Eventually, the cage becomes tighter than the world outside it. Eventually, the stillness becomes a scream. Eventually, staying small starts to feel like death. And in that moment, you realize the pain of staying stuck has finally outweighed the fear of becoming free. So if we all carry this inner tension, and the culture rewards us for hiding it, how does this play out collectively? How are modern society, social media, and even our spiritual practices reinforcing the very stuckness we want to escape? If you feel stuck, look around. You're not alone. This isn't just a personal struggle. It's a cultural epidemic. We are living through a collective freeze, where motion is everywhere, but meaning is rare. A culture that moves fast, but thinks shallow. We scroll, we swipe, we binge, we consume content at lightning speed. But do we ever stop long enough to ask, is this helping me evolve? The digital world offers stimulation, but not direction. We're overstimulated, but underconnected, overinformed, but undertransformed. We move constantly, yet feel internally paralyzed. The mask of modern identity. We've mastered the art of personal branding, of becoming someone impressive, but not someone real. We curate authenticity. We showcase vulnerability. We turn being ourselves into content, but performance isn't presence, and image isn't integration. We're exhausted from playing roles, but terrified to take the mask off. So we stay stuck, not because we don't want freedom, but because we don't know who we are without the costume. The hustle culture, and the fear of stillness. We are told to keep moving, keep building, keep optimizing. Rest is suspicious, slowness is failure. But here's the irony. The more you resist stillness, the deeper your stuckness becomes, because clarity isn't found in speed, it's found in silence. And silence? We've been taught to fear it, because in silence, why? Truth starts to speak. Wellness as a distraction, even healing can become a trap. You buy the crystals, take the cold showers, do the breath work, listen to the guided meditations. But if you're using healing as a way to avoid pain, it becomes another mask. You're not actually healing, you're performing healing, chasing transcendence to avoid truth. The result? You feel more stuck than ever, because nothing works until you're willing to face what's underneath the stuckness. The age of internal disconnection. In a society that celebrates control, output, and aesthetics, feeling lost is taboo. You're rewarded for pretending you know who you are. You're punished for pausing to find out. So we keep going, half awake, half honest, half alive. But maybe that stuckness you feel isn't just a signal from you. Maybe it's a signal from the collective unconscious. Maybe you're not just trying to change your own life. Maybe you're part of a larger awakening, where we finally stop mistaking motion for meaning, where we finally ask, who would I be if I let go of what's no longer true? So how do we begin to move again? Not through force, but through truth. What does it actually take to step out of the loop and into yourself? So here you are, not broken, not lost, not lazy, just paused. And maybe that pause isn't a problem. Maybe it's a portal. Feeling stuck is not the end of your story. It's the moment the old story stops working. It's when the roles you've played no longer feel like home. It's when the life you've built no longer holds your truth. It's not failure, it's a beginning, disguised as stillness. You're not stuck because you don't know what to do. You're stuck because some part of you refuses to keep doing what's no longer aligned. And that part of you? That's the most honest thing you've got. So what now? You don't need a 10-step plan. You don't need a motivational speech. You need a moment of honesty to ask, what do I know that I've been pretending not to know? What am I afraid will happen if I finally change? What truth have I been avoiding? Not because it's wrong, but because it would require everything to shift? That's the doorway, not productivity, not strategy. Honesty, because movement without truth is just another loop. But truth? Truth cracks the shell. So here's the paradox. You're not stuck because you're failing. You're stuck because you're waking up. Because something inside you finally said no more. No more pretending, no more performing, no more chasing lives that were never yours. And that kind of awakening, it doesn't look like fireworks. It looks like stillness, confusion, discomfort. It looks like everything stopping so your soul can finally speak. So the next time you feel stuck, don't ask, "How do I fix this?" Ask, "What is this stillness here to teach me?" Because maybe you're not stuck. Maybe you're being prepared to become someone you've never met before. Someone real, someone whole, someone you.